So if you want to grow your coaching or consulting business in just a few weeks, avoiding the most common traps and mistakes everyone seems to be repeating since 2016, you need to listen to this video as it might save you years of grinding and hustling. And let me start with what everyone else is doing and why you should avoid it at all costs. And then I'll share with you a much better strategy that will allow you to get six-figure business, like a coaching or consulting business, while working just a couple of hours per day. Right, so here's what everyone started to do in 2015, 2016, and it seems like they never stopped ever since. By the way, in my next video, I'm going to explain why doing what everyone else is doing is detrimental to your success, and how to find the little gems hidden in your market. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel with notifications on to be the first to see the video. Okay, so this is basically the standard model that's being used so far since, seriously, 2015, 2016. It worked in the beginning. It made sense when nobody else was using this, but now it's become like the market is very saturated with this kind of system. And because of that, there are a lot of pitfalls. I'm gonna break this apart because most of these things are nonsense or completely inefficient. And I'll explain to you why it became so mainstream, why it worked for someone, but it doesn't really work for most people, and what you should do instead. Okay, so basically, this is the first step everyone tells you to do: pick a niche, right? And when people say this, like, the way it sounds to me is like you have many options and you just choose one, right? You have that niche here, oh, that's my niche, right? But in reality, in real life, real situations are not so black and white. It's not like you can go out there and say, okay, people in my niche, please step across this line and stay there and don't move. This is the people I'm gonna target. It's like, it's unreal, right? It's something very imaginary, okay? So the niche is something more alive and moving and changing, but what you can do is actually pick a category of people. That's a broad category, and that's what's usually being like what people call a niche. It's actually a category for most people, right? In most cases. So you have a broad category, and within that category, you can select a few traits to select your niche. So picking a niche and selecting a niche is not actually the same thing. There are differences. It might seem like I'm splitting hairs here, but like when you understand the difference between picking something that supposedly exists only in your imagination and selecting some traits within that broader category, imaginary category, and finding actual real people in that category that make up your niche, that's when things start to change. This is like the most important difference in this kind of system, that like from here, everything starts to change if you understand this, but everything moves apart from this model, okay? So this is wrong. This is completely wrong because you can't pick a niche. You gotta select it, okay? So because of that, because it's all imaginary, like these top steps, the first three steps, are based on your imagination, right? And you might be very good at imagining things, but statistically, 1 to 5% of people who follow this model are successful. And the reason is that this, and this should not be an imaginary, you know, it shouldn't be thinking very hard about it. You should actually do some work, and I'll explain to you how to do that later. And it's not supposed to stay in your head and be in your head and stay in your head, right? So then you create an imaginary ideal client avatar. So you create this representation of how your clients should look like. And again, it's all imaginary, so you can get it right, but most people don't. Or at least you may miss or overlook some very important aspects of this. And I'll give you an example of a client that worked with me recently that actually did the work and realized that this was not actually a good idea to work with some of the people he thought might be his niche. So he moved away from it thanks to the work that we did together, okay? So once you've done that, then you have to create an offer. And again, since the first two steps are imaginary, basically, again, the offer is based on your imagination, based on what you think, what you guess is the right thing to fix a problem that you identified in your mind. Again, no real field work, okay? It's all in your mind. And based on two very unreal steps that then lead to another problem because you create your offer. And again, you have no way of knowing if this offer will work or not to help someone you don't even know if they really exist. And basically you try to fix their problems, their desires with your offer. Now, once you've done that, you gotta go, this is my favorite, find them where they hang out online, which is not something you should be doing here, you should be doing before, but anyways, it doesn't matter. This is where you find the groups, Facebook groups usually, or anywhere they hang out online, but mostly Facebook groups. And in those Facebook groups, you have to give away free value. Nobody knows what that means. Most people don't know what they're talking about when they say give away free value. Everybody fills their mouth with this sentence, phrase, whatever. They don't know what they're talking about. And basically this boils down to creating generic content to help those people with their ideal situation, right? Which is, again, imaginary. So the posts we're gonna create in that sense are gonna be like, throw spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks, okay? And then you have the engagement questions, the magic in engagement questions, because you want to increase your engagement in using this strategy, right? You want as many people to click and like and comment on your posts, because the reasoning behind it is the more people do that, the more the algorithm will push my content, the good content, the value content, to my ideal client avatars that will then respond and become clients. That's the theory behind this. Now, there are a lot of flaws, as you've already seen. One of the problems here is that when you create engagement questions, a lot of people who are not in your niche, who are not interested in what you do, will reply and comment and create engagement just because it's easy to do, because those questions are like, what's your favorite book, right? So it's very easy to reply to that question. It's very easy to interact with that kind of post. You see a lot of people doing that. So actually it's true that that post will be pushed by the algorithm, so more people will interact with it. And not all the people who reply to those questions, even if they're well thought, eventually they're not going to be perfect, okay? So there will be a lot of people who are not remotely interested in working with you and actually interacting with that. It's a little bit like a trick situation, right? Because you tricked people with an engagement post and never said, hey, if you're interested, raise your hand. So people don't know what they're buying into. They interact with that post, and then you contact them and you try to sell them something that they didn't sign up for, right? So it's not even very genuine, this kind of process. Now, what you do is message everyone who interacts with that kind of content, whether it's the value posts or the engagement questions, doesn't matter, and you try to get them on a call with you. Now, this can work, of course, like everything, if the first 3 steps you were lucky enough to get it right, just by chance. Again, 1 to 5% of people do it. And then if what you create based on that actually works to attract the right people. Even if that's the case though, you will still have a lot of people from the engagement posts and questions that will basically not be in your niche, not interested in working with you, and that you will have to deal with on a daily basis. You shouldn't actually. There's no reason for doing that, but since you have to follow this strategy, there's no other way to do it, right? And the consequence, at least for me and many people, is to get insults and rejections all day long for 2 years until you actually learn what you really want, okay? This happened to me for 2 years. It was painful, right? And the reason why I'm creating this video is that I want people to, like, this was a long time ago for me, but people still do this. And by the way, I want to know if this is something that you were proposed, if this is something that you're actually doing these days. If that was the case, let me know in the comments. So now you basically understand why it doesn't work. And let me tell you what to do instead, which is this. And basically the better option is to start with wow sessions, okay? This is just part of what we do with my program, but this works very well. It's very efficient. You spend very little time to do one thing very important, which is market research, okay? So you don't pick a niche, you select it, okay? So you pick a category and you select a niche within that category. So this is very efficient because now you have all the information that you need to truly understand your ICA. It's a real person or real people, okay? These traits that you've selected within the niche are real because you've talked to people. What are wow sessions, by the way? Wow sessions is when you get on a call with someone, you have an interview with them, and you give them a wow session in return. So basically, you give them a free consultation, a free coaching session that blows their mind, okay? And you do that to thank them for what they've done for you, which is sharing some information about the niche, okay? So when you do that, not only will you understand all these things, but basically you have all the information to create something that is actually what they want, which is what I call an enticing offer, okay? So when you create that kind of offer, you can skip all this nonsense that you see here that we talked about before, okay? And this is very important because then you can leverage social media algorithms to generate free traffic. How do you do that? Basically, you don't have to create content to do that, okay? But you use, like for example, on Facebook, you can use suggested friends. There are ways to do it, of course, but basically that saves you a lot of time. So the activity here It's probably 20 to 40 minutes a day, okay? And then what do? You create content that's based on your offer, that's based on real data from the WOW sessions, okay? It's all tested, at least to some extent. The testing never ends, to be honest, with this kind of business. You have to continue to improve and do things better, of course. But you can, like, this saves you at least 2 years of banging your head against the wall to try and figure out what happens in your niche, what works, right? So now you create content. It's on your profile. It's not in groups. You don't have to ask permission to create a CTA, a call to action. You don't have to, pay for exposure in that group, because nowadays some groups, because of that kind of activity that was like, this kind of activity here, they had to create limitations and restrictions because everybody was doing that, and it was hurting the group, of course, the people in the group. So because of that, groups are very restricted now, like in the sense that you can't do whatever you want, but you have. This is your profile. You can do almost whatever you want. Of course, you can't say illegal things, or there are still limitations, but you can sell whatever you want on your profile. And because of that, basically you're attracting these people that are real. So the percentage of people that are real in the real world is higher than the percentage, the imaginary people, right? There are more real people in the world than imaginary people. Okay, so because of that, the conversion is much higher. In fact, in my experience, I convert 8% of my sales calls into clients, right? And it's not because I'm a sales genius. I'm actually not. I'm not really great. I was not great at sales before I started to use the system. When I was using the other system, my conversion was like 0.5%. Like I had to do 200 calls to get a client, which is not great. And this is actually the opposite. So this saves me a lot of time, because I mostly get on a call with someone who's interested. If they don't get on a call, if they do get on a call but don't get the final stages of the sales process, I'm not even making an offer to them, because it doesn't make sense for me right now. And that's exactly what you should be when you're starting out. When you have a sales team and you create a mountain of leads because you've scaled this system, not the other one. You want to scale this one because this is scalable. The other one is not really, at least for most people, it's not. So once you scale this and you have a sales team that takes a lot of leads, in that case, it might be different, right? But in the beginning, until you hit 6 figures and grow from there, actually with this system you can make more than that. You want to stick to the people who are interested, ready buyers, right? People who are ready to buy today. Because of that, you get a lot of time back, okay? Because if you think about it, you don't have to post in multiple groups. It's only your profile or profiles if you want to use different social media. And then basically with that content, you're attracting people. So you're not chasing them, they're coming to you to some extent. You still have to meet them halfway, but it's like the distance to cover is much less than before. And because of that, you have this high conversion rate, which saves you even more time, and you get some financial reward for that because you're making money now. You're finally, like, if you get on 5 calls a month, we're not even talking about a week, you can have a little over 1 call a week and still having a 6-figure business with this kind of conversion rate, okay? Which is not impossible. Trust me, if you do everything that I've mentioned before, this is natural. This is a natural consequence of you just, I had a client who had, actually, I think I was in the 90% in the beginning, but then it dropped a little bit. I had a client, multiple clients actually, who had like one call, one close. It's not always the case, but sometimes it can happen, right? It's almost 100%, especially in the beginning. And if you get better at sales, if you're not starting from there, you can get there, right? So 80% is totally possible, which is not common in this industry. In this industry, the ones who are good are usually between 20 and 30%, right? So you have the financial, the time freedom, location freedom, because now you can, you have the time, you can do whatever you want, you have the money, you can do whatever you want, right? You can move around, you can, I have a picture, maybe I'll put it here in the video, where I'm working on the beach, right? Because you can do that with this. And this is how you do it. And yeah, this is a very simple system, okay? If you can see, like, you remove a lot of steps that are unnecessary and actually increasing the problems, because you have 1 step here, 2nd step here, 3rd step here, 4th step here, and that's it, compared to at least 6 in the previous model, right? And this is the result. This is the outcome. So if this is something that you'd like to create for yourself, you can book a demo call with me, and I will see your situation in detail and tell you exactly how to get results that you're looking for with a realistic and practical step-by-step strategy tailored to you. Now remember that it won't be a sales call, so you can leave your credit card at home. This is just to see if I can actually help you achieve your goals, and I can still afford to do this while the channel is small. But as soon as this grows, I won't be able to offer this kind of service for free anymore. So book your call now, and we'll take it from there. You find the link in the description to your big dream.